So, part 2 of this lesson, we're going to look at the 4 principles of training in isolation. We'll look at each one, we'll discuss each one, and then we'd like you to look at the work that's been set for you and try and apply some of this knowledge into your work. As we mentioned, there are 4 principles of training that you need to be aware of. Specificity, which I struggle to say, progression, overload, and reversibility. The first of these that we're going to look at is specificity. This simply means the training must be matched to the needs of the sporting activity and the individual. For example, the training for a shot putter will be different from the training for a marathon runner. A marathon runner is going to do lots of long distance work, lots of cardiovascular endurance work, whereas the shot putter is going to be working on their strength and their power. As it says, you would not ask your shot putter to run 2 miles every day because that's not going to be specific to their event. In the same way, you wouldn't ask a runner to use heavy weight based exercises because that's not going to be specific for their event or help their event. As it says, it should be no surprise that swimmers do a lot of their training in the pool and cyclists do a lot of their training on the bike. We try and make training specific to the activity. Thinking of the principle of specificity, we've got 3 athletes below: Mo Farah, Lionel Messi, and Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast. How would the below athletes apply this principle of specificity in their training? Think about the components of fitness they need, the muscle groups they use, and whether they are aerobic or anaerobic activities. What type of training do you think they would do? I'd like to pause the video and attempt those questions. What type of training would be specific? What type of training would be activity and would be suitable for these 3 different athletes? The next principle of training we're going to look at is overload. Overload means a greater than normal stress that is applied to the body, causing training adaptations to take place. This basically means that a sports person's body will only adapt, will only change, will only improve if it is forced to do so as a result of a challenging training. For example, we need to overload the body. If you ran a mile every day, okay, that would improve your fitness to a certain level, but to make you progress, you would need to overload that. You would need to try, can you run a mile and a half, or can you do it quicker? We need to overload the body to cause those training adaptations to take place. As it says, if a performer trains at a comfortable level, they will not be applying the principle of overload, and the body will not need to adapt or change or improve. Next, progression. To create progression, we can gradually increase the frequency, intensity, time or type, it's known as FIT, F-I-T-T, of exercise, in order for the body to continue to adapt through overload. This means we could change firstly the frequency, how often we do it, intensity, how hard we're working, time, how long we're training for, and type, the type of activity we're doing. Progression and overload are linked together. As it says, the principle of progression is about maintaining overload throughout a training program. So can we get that progression to create overload? If you train at the same level as your first week's program throughout, the body will adapt, and so training will become comfortable, and you'll no longer be applying the principle of overload. As I mentioned, we need to put in extra strain on our body in order for it to make physical adaptations and improve. Thinking of FIT then, frequency, intensity, time and type, can you pause the video and can you think of different ways to achieve the principle of progression? Hopefully you came up with some. Here are some examples of how to apply the principle of progression. Okay, to improve the frequency, we could train 3 times a week rather than twice. Nice and simple. We could run 2 miles rather than 1. If we were working in the gym and leg pressing 50 kilograms for 8 reps rather than 45 kilograms for 8 reps. So we've increased the weight. We've got that progression. Altering our training, maybe from continuous to interval training. And the final principle of training is reversibility. This basically means if you don't use it, you lose it. So any adaptations, any improvements that we make as a result of training will be lost if we stop training. That's what reversibility means. We'll go back, we'll reverse, our level of fitness will deteriorate. Training adaptations are only temporary. If training stops or reduces, the gains achieved will be lost. Therefore, if I was training really hard for the marathon and then I stopped training, I took a month out, I would decrease my level of fitness. The improvements I'd made in my cardiovascular endurance that are going to help me in the marathon would go down. If you guys now sitting at home, if you don't manage to get out in the garden and do some exercise, obviously all the sports cancelled at the weekend. If you stop doing anything altogether, when you do go back to your sport, your level of fitness and suitability and the components of fitness which you require for those sports will have reversed, will have decreased back to a starting point, and you'll have to work harder. Therefore, even more reason for you to get out in the garden, in the front room, watch Mr. Sari, watch Joe Wicks, and have a go at these training exercises. So when might sports people experience reversibility? Have a little think. So it could be as a result of injury. A short or a long-term injury means you can't train. During the off-season. So if you football, for example, you might have the summer off and your level of fitness might decrease. Very strange situation at the moment, but obviously the situation we're going in could result in reversibility for a lot of you, unless you manage to maintain some level of exercise. If they take a break for whatever reason, or if they decide to prioritise other components of fitness. I think, right, I'm going to do lots of gym work, lots of strength and power work, and that might mean your cardiovascular endurance decreases, or your coordination or flexibility decreases. And also if you do not train regularly or effectively. Final task for you to do on this PowerPoint. Mo Salah, you probably all know, is a footballer that plays for Liverpool and for Egypt. Last season, towards the end of last season, he injured his shoulder against Real Madrid in the Champions League final just a few weeks before the World Cup. What training advice would you have given to Mo Salah to reduce the effects of reversibility while he couldn't play? So what could he do to try and prevent reversibility taking place, so when he was fit, he was able to play in the World Cup and his fitness would be at the same level? Okay, so hopefully you've watched this PowerPoint. The two PowerPoints we put together, you can use that information, just take some notes on this to help you complete the tasks. Thank you.